Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
This is a Danger Entertainment podcast. DangerEntertainment.net. Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
Do you ever wonder when Spider-Man goes to the bathroom if the toilet paper sticks to his fingers?
Do you ever wonder why Superman wears his underwear outside of his pants?
My name is Imran.
My name is Anthony.
He's the Jock!
And he's the Nerd.
And we're your hosts for the Jock and Nerd podcast, where we sometimes try to attempt to answer these questions.
This is a full spoiler podcast, and we swear a lot.
Check it out for awesome geek news, interviews, and comic book reviews. Visit jockandnerd.com. We are your superhero TV, movies, and comic book culture curators.
Boom.
Jockandnerd.com. Jock and Nerd!
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out and try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name is Jen, and I am your hostess for the evening. And with me, as always, we have Henno and Brian. Hey, guys.
Hello. What it do, players?
What it do? What it be? What it down?
Oh, we are definitely not cool enough to be using those words.
Nope.
Oh, come on.
I am way too transparent to be using.
Everybody can be down.
Down with the funk. I hear ya. All right.
Oh, hey. The funk is not above me.
Nope.
Ever.
I've just always been worried about keeping it alive.
Or is that below me? Yeah, the funk's never wouldn't. Yeah, I'm not above the funk.
There you go. I'm never above the funk. Anyways.
That's Heno's new T-shirt.
Never. And then on the back, it gives you the definitions of the two different types of funk.
Yeah.
You decide.
Yeah. Well, you just take a fabric marker and circle the one that's you. You know.
You know what it is? That what there needs to be is there needs to be like funk on the top, funk on the bottom, and then me right in the middle.
Yeah.
Because you know, there's one I'm never too good for, and there's the others that I can never achieve.
There you go.
Or did I get that backwards? I don't know.
I'm just picturing a shirt where it's like Pigpen from Peanuts, but it's Heno as Pigpen with the dust cloud around him.
Yeah.
Pigpen with like gold teeth and like completely.
Yeah, ain't too good for the funk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, funked out, absolutely.
Yeah, there's. You know what? I'll just kick off my week because I actually cleared off a corner of funk in the household
Nice.
this weekend.
Bunch of George
I got
Clinton Parliament records.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna sing. What's that? I'm just gonna sing it like clear out the funk. I cleared out that funk. Clear out the funk. Yeah, there was when I got rid of the desk over there and I put in the new shelving and there was all the miscellaneous knickknacks and old screws and little bits of guitar parts and computer thises and that's all sitting on various tables taking up surface. I mean, I did this months ago.
I gotta tell you, Heno,
ago.
What you just described sounds like the worst Dr. Seuss novel. Or book, not novel, but yeah. There's computer who's it's and what's it's everywhere and guitar parts and what's it's. Yeah. This is terrible.
The best part about it was I had a box of old, not like like an organizing box that you get at Target, with cute little stripies on the side of it, and it was full of. I one time accidentally I needed to get deposit slips for a checkbook.
Yeah.
Boys and girls, there was this thing called a checkbook where you wrote things. It was a promissory note for money. Talk to your mom and dad if you don't understand what it is I'm talking about.
What's money?
Money. It was a thing of.
It's what Apple Pay was based on. No.
So I needed these. I accidentally put in an order. Whatever's like checkbooks.com or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And I somehow managed to check the amount, it was like a buy one, get two free. And I bought 4. So I ended up with 80. So I had more deposit slips than I could ever use in a lifetime. And then my account got hacked and I had to get a new checking account number.
That's the worst part about those kind of things because they, if you have your number on them, it's like, man, these are all just garbage now.
Garbage, yeah. So I brought the box upstairs. I took that, I upended it in the garbage, and I'm like, look, this is a great vessel for all the who's its and what's its. And so I just
all right. Now I'm thinking. Now my head's going into Little Mermaid. Got who's its and what's it's aplenty. Yeah.
And the best part about it was the adulation. Is that even a word? Is that the word?
Yeah. I mean, it's a word.
It is a word. I'm not sure if it applies. The adoring love I got from my wife by doing such a simple act that took 3 months or 2 or however long it was.
Yeah.
Which was actually quite novel and cute. But yeah, so I got all this stuff put away and it felt really good because there's going to be somebody coming to our house in 9 days to watch the dogs while we go to Jamaica. And the house has to be somewhat presentable because I am so, bringing this around full circle, not above the funk, and the house is funky. Yeah, there's
time for a week-long air out.
Oh yeah, well that's luckily I talked to my boss about because I'm 5 hours short on PTO for the vacation. I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking maybe I'll work on not take the extra day off for Labor Day. He's like, how many hours? I'm like, 5. He's like, oh, you'll make that up in a pay period. Don't worry about it. Take the 3-day week. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to need that extra day to clean. Like seriously clean.
I love that you get excited about getting the extra day to clean.
Well, I am inherently lazy, man.
No, I get it. We're cut from very similar cloth. Yeah.
I have not even. Our good friends Neil and Annalise from the Dark Angels and Pretty Freaks podcast. So y'all listening know who I'm talking about.
Nicely done.
They tend to pack. We're meeting them in Jamaica, and hopefully we'll get a chance to podcast with them from Jamaica. But they've packed already. Like a month ago, they've packed.
Not only did
Neil
they pack,
had
but they filmed it also,
yeah,
I believe.
And they put it on YouTube.
On
So
their
go
YouTube
check
channel.
out the Halos and Heathens
There you go.
channel on YouTube, and you can see them doing their packing, and which is just really exciting. But even like all the documentation, not only does Neil have it all, on in the cloud somewhere and in his emails, he's printed out paper copies of them all, and they're with the passports organized into a folder, some stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I haven't done diddly.
I just picture you guys are going to get there. Neil's going to open a briefcase and pull all this stuff out, and you're going to be there, and you're just like pulling receipts out of your pockets. And it's like, I know it's one of these things.
I got some lint here.
Yeah, like gum wrappers. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm thinking ahead. I'm planning.
I like it.
The eventual, the end of the procrastination, because I am the procrastinator.
That's wow.
Yeah, take that as you will.
Nice.
Now, one thing I did not mention on the show last week, I talked to you guys both about. There was a little issue with the vacation, and Brian and Jen know about it. But it was one of those little issues where, I almost pulled a "Don't you know who I am," which is another Crazy Life callback.
Yeah.
To Heno's ego.
Yep.
But I didn't. And I wrote several of those really long email responses where it says, "Don't you know who I am?" without actually saying, "Don't you know who I am?"
Right.
And various other threats that you make when you feel like you are being disrespected and not getting the customer service that you feel that you are entitled to, or I am entitled to.
Right.
But I didn't. And I didn't go over the head to the other and a higher authority. I instead talked to my travel agent, and I got a message back on, that was on Monday. I got a email on Friday saying, "Check your account. I think everything's taken care of." And I went into my account, and sure enough, everything was taken care of.
Awesome.
And I was very happy. I'm very excited. And I just got another email from her saying, 1 week away. Is there anything I could do for you? And I'm like, you already helped so much. Because just in brief summary for everyone listening, it was one of these things that will make me, it's a make or break thing. It's a deal breaker. I will not go back to a place for a customer service slight that has nothing to do with, I'm not talking about like, I wanted to cancel and get all my money back one day before leaving kind of stuff.
Yeah, something ridiculous. That. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about something that is just literally, it's a clerical error. They could push a couple buttons, make it all good, and everyone will be happy. But they gave me the old terms and conditions thing, and it's like, okay, you really want to push terms and conditions on me never, ever, ever going back to your resort again? And so I was very happy. It's also a reminder how something can really get in my head.
Yeah.
Like, and I am at least about a point now where I understand that I can't afford justified resentments.
Yeah.
And this goes back to me being an alcoholic. And it's a lesson that I don't necessarily succeed at, but I like that it's in the back of my head at all times. And this idea is that, alcoholics cannot afford justified resentments because that will lead us to a drink real quickly.
Okay. That makes sense.
And, and why wouldn't it? I shared last week about how just the thought of a beer popped into my head.
Yeah.
Just randomly. Okay. Now add to that, well, I've earned this because so-and-so did this to me or da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And it's part of the process. It's like I'm weak to a justified resentment. It could lead me there. And I like that. And that's where it comes back to this idea like, oh, well, you're part of that brainwashing program. And it's like, well, my brain needed a good washing. I like making that joke because it's true.
Yeah.
There are some things where you say, well, that's a cult mentality. Fine. It's a cult of me being happy and sober.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know what? Okay, great.
Yeah.
I drank the proverbial Kool-Aid.
Right.
And it had no, it's clean punch. There's nothing in there.
Yeah,
It's not spiked,
Right.
So anyhow, but it was a reminder of how I can get a resentment easily. And then and the first thing is I weighed it last week. I really weighed like how much do I want to be in this in my head? And can I just come up with a, like, okay, I'm going to take a step. And this is kind of my win for the week. I took a step and I let process play out. I didn't get involved in it. I didn't push it. I didn't try to control the outcome or the speed of the outcome. I put my faith in the next step and I let it play out. And I did, make some agreements with myself about, okay, if it doesn't work out, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
In a way that where I can let go of this part of it, but I can also still, I think it's a hard thing to differentiate a resentment from maybe a principled decision, if that makes any sense. That's a fine line there. There's some serious gray area between being stubborn and resentful and saying, well, I do have some principles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like you can really find some justification in there, but I'm happy I just stuck with it. I stayed out of the way. I let the process wind its way out, and in this case it worked out in my favor. If it didn't, I was ready. I'm still going to go on vacation. I'm still going to enjoy myself. But I just decided I just won't go back again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple. That's my choice. I don't put that on, it's because what I wanted to say is you do this or else.
Right.
And I didn't because it's irrelevant.
Well, and that's also good because, ultimatums don't, many times ultimatums don't turn out in our favor, because sometimes
it just leads to more resentment.
Yeah. And, something I like on here too is that you're, you've talked on here before about the restraint of, what is it? Of tongue and pen. Yeah. And you showed that here, even though you wrote this stuff out, it's not all bad, cause again, there is that therapy kind of homework that people get sometimes where it's write all the stuff that's, whatever, and then burn it, bury it, throw it away, whatever, destroy it in some way. Okay, it's gone, type of thing. But I also, you very much showed us going through the, the doesn't need to be said, doesn't need to be said by me, doesn't need to be said by me, now or whatever, however.
Now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is by you showing the restraint that you did there, you ended up getting what you wanted. You went this way. Now, like you said, it worked in your favor. Now, if it didn't, who knows? Maybe then the restraint, comes off and, but you know what I mean? Like you said, you had to make decisions.
That was the whole, and that was part of, I think, the process was also to come up with, okay, well, what if it doesn't work out in your favor? What are you going to do?
Right, and I like to you didn't turn that into an exercise in negativity. You weren't well, this isn't going to work out. You were well, if this doesn't work out, I'm basically I'm talking big talk right now. So what am I going to do to back up my big talk if this doesn't go through?
And what's the action that I'm going to take that has nothing to do with and it doesn't matter about the other people. It's just myself. Again, bringing the control back to me so I can have the freedom. And that, I think, is the lesson, that for me always is, it's better for me to not blame other people and justify resentment. It's better for me to own my part in something, do what I can do for myself, and move on.
Yeah.
And many times the best action is no action, meaning I can make a choice for myself, and the other person doesn't even have to know that I did it.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not going to change anything. Then it's just grandstanding for the purpose of or victim. It's basically victim behavior. If I go out of my way to say, oh, okay, well, fine, you won't do this, well, then I'm not going to do this, and I'm going to let you know that I'm not going to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was kind of like I'm chalking that the whole thing up to a win, and part of it feels very victorious because it worked out.
Yeah, right.
I'll readily admit that.
That certainly helps. Yeah.
And like I said, I was still going to go on vacation. I was still going to enjoy myself, but I'm not going to lie and say that it wasn't going to affect me. Of course it was going to affect me.
Yeah.
It was going to feel a little crummy, and I'm glad I don't have to feel crummy. And I'm really grateful for the help that I had. And I don't, it's like I'm not that big of a spiritual giant that I can just be so gracious and let this stuff go. So I'm happy I have friends that help me.
Yeah.
Or a travel agent.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
like I said, you let people do what they do sometimes, and it's instead of instead of trying to, well, I'm going to handle this or whatever, it's like, well, no, it's, it was probably better that your travel agent handled it, or at least attempted to handle it first.
I'll tell you, you're right with that, because a friend of mine said, why didn't you just go over because I was just doing things via email.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, why didn't you just call them up and go right to their manager?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I know that was an option,
mm-hmm.
but that involves me talking on a phone, and not that, suddenly, like I said, it's one thing to have a character defect. It's another thing to open my mouth and prove it.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
That's right. Yep.
So it was kind of better that my travel agent just took care of everything.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason that travel agents are in the position that they're in. They have contacts and they have different skills that they have gained over the years of being a travel agent through going through school and doing their own thing. So it seems to be the smart choice that if you're using a travel agent, let them carry the big stick. Let them handle the hardship, the hard stuff, as well as, all the easy stuff. So, you made the right choice. You let the person with the most skill set handle the problem.
Actually, that's very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you know what? That is very difficult for us to do these days.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It is very hard. And that I run into it actually all the time at work because, I'm in a position that a lot of people communicate through me and with me, and a lot of things fall to my plate. And for me, I'm a very, very big believer in the process and the assembly line process, which is everyone has a role, understands their role, and does their role. And it's time, when it's time to pass the engine on or the widget on to the next person on the assembly line, you pass it on. You don't travel with it. Just because you know how to do the next job doesn't mean it's your job to do. Everybody has
That's true. Yeah.
Have a reason for this person to be doing this job. They have a reason for this person to be doing the next job. There's a reason the process is set up the way it is. Because, if you're spending your time, it's very difficult for a lot of people to accept because they see it as it's on my plate. It's something I know how to do. why not? Why don't I just take care of it all at once and be done with it?
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense. The problem with that, though, is that's tying you up from doing something else. You may not be the person with the most experience or knowledge to handle that said situation in the appropriate manner. And on top of it all, you're taking somebody else's position. That's their job. Let them do their thing. You do your thing, they do their thing. We all coexist in a happy place. So, you did the absolute right decision in letting the right person handle the job, and they came through.
Or at least, like you said, at least put it in their hands and give them, all that keeps running through my head is like, sports analogies, like they always talk in sports, like, when it comes down to the last play of the game and you need this, a basket in basketball or a touchdown in football, it's like you put the ball in the hands of your best player and let them make a move or make a play, you know, and it's the same thing here. Is your best player, your, first up was your travel agent. If that didn't work, then you can always pull the "Do you know who I am?" card.
There's always an option.
Yeah.
Instead, I laid out in the sun as much as I could this last week, and prepped myself for, getting out of pasty whiteness and be somewhat ready, so I don't pull that really bad sunburned guy on day 2 who can't be out anywhere.
Right.
Yeah. I've been there.
I have been that person. It is not a fun place to be.
I won't do it anymore. I've done it so many times, and it's like, I know it's a little bit of a. I am not a sun worshiper. I typically lots of sun lotion. I don't care. I don't care that I'm white.
Yep.
But there are some things, and one of them, if I'm going to go anywhere where it's over 100 degrees for an extended period of time, I will make sure I've got a tan over, somewhat, just to protect myself. And the other one is when I go on vacation, you're going to be out in the water and you want to enjoy yourself. And yes, I'm still going to use suntan lotion, but I don't have this feeling like, feeling like you're, I'm supposed to be on vacation. I'm supposed to come back looking tan, so.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you blew it and you are a lobster.
Yep. I don't know, man. I mean, we were in Florida for what, Jen? Like, it was like 13 days or 12 days or something like that, and I didn't even remotely get tan. And in fairness, one of the days we were outside all day in Universal Studios, so it's not like I didn't have a chance to. I just didn't. I don't know what happened that day. I had sunblock on, and when we went to that art walk, or whatever, it was really hot. But again, it's sunblock on, so the sunblock must have just worked really well. I don't know, or either that, or I'm just so bright that the sun rays just couldn't get to me. Yeah, they just couldn't get to me.
It just reflects off you.
Yeah.
You basically look at the sun and you say, I'm rubber and you're glue.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So take that.
The sun looks at me and puts sunglasses on, Yeah.
That's too funny.
That's funny. Next.
All right, I'll go next.
Okay.
My week has been, pretty average. So it's a good thing kind of falling into a pattern of just nice contentment. So, which is a good place to be. We all know we can't stay there forever, but when you do get those pockets of consistency and contentment, it's nice to kind of sit in it and just relax and enjoy it. So I've been doing that. I've actually had a house guest, which we all know how me and house guests are. But I love having, because it's my father-in-law, and I love having my father-in-law here. He's a great guy. Get along great. But there's always I found out on Wednesday that he was coming in Friday.
Oh, ouch.
Yes. So that always kind of throws me into a bit of a tailspin, as we all well know from if you listen to the podcast.
Right, because for anyone who doesn't know, like you are a person who, much like Henno was just saying, would like to be above the funk before someone comes to visit. Yeah.
Yeah, and I too am not the most on top of it type of person. I do have a bit of procrastinator in me, as well as a good dose of laziness. So my house is not always, people ready. So, or at least I don't feel it's guest ready. But another good dose of, people love me for who I am, not for my house. And if they do have an issue, no one's going to dare say anything. And if they did say anything, that's on them. That is not on me.
Right.
So
And
I had to go through that a few times in my
just
head.
Hand them a broom or a mop and say, have had it.
And by no means, because like I said, my father-in-law and I get along wonderfully. So by no means would I ever expect him to ever criticize in that manner, because that's just not his style. So really, it's absolutely foundless, the worries and the getting all worked out.
Right.
But yet I always go through it because my brain is wonderful and it loves to send me on these little goose chases and all these wonderful things that pop up in my head. So I have that going on. Something actually that I found interesting that it was on Twitter. It was around the idea of how are you doing? I'm doing good. And so often we say that, and because it's the natural inclination. When someone asks you how you're doing, you just say, I'm doing fine, thanks, how are you? And we move on with our day. Whether we're truly fine or not, it's inconsequential because it's not part of the communication dialogue that always happens. And I made a tweet along those lines, and someone mentioned to me, I care. I want to know how you really are. When I ask you, I really want to know. Mm-hmm. And I thought about that, and I'm like, my response back to them was, I really appreciate that. That actually means quite a lot, knowing that there's people out there that truly want to know. Mm-hmm. But often, I can't even explain it to myself. I can't make heads or tails of it in my own head how I'm doing, let alone verbalizing it and helping someone else understand how I'm doing.
Yeah.
And they completely got it, which I didn't expect, but they got it. And they're like, yeah, no, I get it. Right. So, which was awesome that they were able to go there with me. But it's something I did want to bring up for the show, because I think that I'm not the only one that kind of goes through that. Yeah. Where, and it just, I wish I could. It's like, I wish I had the words to be able to say, when I'm not okay, why I'm not okay. Yeah. And what is actually going on in my head that makes me not okay.
Right.
But more often than not, it's like, I don't have the words. I wish I did, but I just don't have the words. I just know that I'm not okay, but I don't know, and I know it'll pass. Yeah. Because it always does. So I just kind of have to hang on and tight and just kind of buckle myself in. But I think that's part of the reason that we end up isolating so much, is because, I say we, meaning people with mental disorders, or even people who don't have a mental disorder that ends up feeling that need to isolate, is because we can't communicate it. It's so just foreign and weird, and this mix of feelings and emotions and all this stuff that's up in your brain that's going on at the same time. It's just so hard to articulate it. That, and so often it's not logical. Right. And, and it's so difficult to explain to someone. It's like, I know this sounds crazy. I'm truly not crazy. Well, technically, definition I am, but you get me. I'm not like
that's great.
I'm not in the place that you need to, get me help.
Yeah.
Crazy. But it's one of those that it's not logical. It's going to sound really crazy, but this is actually what's going through my brain. It's so hard to say that because you can't, it's such an epic amount of trust that you're putting into someone.
Mm-hmm.
You're just ultimately that vulnerable. And it's so tough to get to that vulnerable place that you can actually say what's truly bouncing around up there and articulate it in a way that they get it, and they get it to the point that they know it's illogical, it's illogical, you both know that it's nothing, it's not real, it just is. That's what my brain's telling me. I know it's not real, I'm not going to act upon it, but this is the way it is. It's just in such a fascinating concept, and I was able to have a really wonderful conversation around it, thankfully with a good friend of mine. But I wanted to kind of share that here and just kind of my thoughts on that whole matter.
Mm-hmm.
But I truly am, and I kind of going back to what I originally started with, is I truly am doing fine. At this moment, given time, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm keeping up on my meds. Everything is pretty standard and manageable. Got some exciting things happening, which is great. Just, but nothing too crazy, which is a perfect place for me to be right now. So I guess that's it. So that was my week in a nutshell. I don't know. How about you, Brian?
With what you were just saying there, it's always tough too when you open up to somebody about that kind of thing, because so many people don't understand it. And since, like you said, it's hard to articulate, it makes that conversation almost like you're speaking a language they just completely don't understand, because you're trying to describe it and, maybe they get it, but sometimes people just don't. And that's okay too. From our side of it, we always have to remember that, somebody else has not experienced what we have. So if they don't know what it is, we can't get frustrated at them for not knowing what we need or what to do or whatever, because, we don't know even, and but I appreciate, like you said, I appreciate anybody who reaches out and asks, especially the ones who truly care, that aren't just asking, expecting, I wrote a blog about the how are you thing, about, like, a lot of people will ask, but they don't really want the answer. The answer they want is fine, how are you,
Right.
For anyone listening, if you've watched Letterkenny, it's basically, a lot of people want the, how are you now? Good, and you? And that's exactly what they want, is that cadence and that, type of situation. Yeah. So if you don't really want to know those things, don't ask that question. Ask a different question,
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that when you ask that question, they may be like, oh, wow, someone wants, like they actually care. And then they start to talk and basically your eyes glaze over and you're just like, okay, like, so, don't, and that's the kind of thing that can happen to somebody that, like you were saying, Jen, you're vulnerable when you open up. And it's like, well, if somebody the first time they're vulnerable and it starts to open up to somebody and all they say is them just bored, they may not open up to anybody else because they go, well, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to bore them or, whatever. So.
And it's tough because some days, an example just kind of popped in my head. It's asking someone, like, how are you doing? Well, I'm not doing all that well. Well, what's wrong? Well, the grass is blue. I know it's supposed to be green,
yeah.
And I know it's not logical that it's blue, but my brain is telling me that the grass is blue, and it's really bothering me.
Yeah.
That's the type of stuff that goes through my head. And I'm not saying that I think the grass is blue, because it's not.
She does.
But that's sometimes the type of answers that are going through my head. I'm getting that crazy, does not make sense, is not logical, and it's going to come across as just wackadoo. So I can't say that. I can't share that. If I do share it, it has to be with someone who understands that I don't truly believe the grass is blue, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just, it is. It's just, and it's an awkward situation, an awkward question for a lot of people, and I get it. I sometimes ask, how are you, wanting the answer of fine, because I'm being rushed, or I have other things on my mind, or I'm running around doing stuff, and I don't necessarily want to take the time to hear the true answer. But gosh darn it, you give me an answer other than fine, I will make the time, and I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll put everything else on hold, because that's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
But, you know, so I've been in both sides of that situation, so I get it.
Yep. I think we all have, you know, or we've at least been on the side of the not necessarily understanding. Because it doesn't even have to be about a mental health or mental illness kind of situation, you know. Sometimes just, you know, just pain or bad thoughts or whatever, you know. Or, I mean, as simple as a, difference between genders, you know. Like not understanding what the other gender goes through because you're, you know, that you've never gone through that. So, you know, like it's, but yeah, it's tough when, you know, cause you're starting a conversation with two people almost speaking different languages, you know, and that's a really difficult, path to navigate. But I appreciate anyone out there who's been trying. You know, either side of the path, you know, like, cause
effort's everything.
Yeah. You need both sides to try here. As far as my week goes, I don't know. It's been another pretty boring week. I've got a decent amount of stuff. Like I've done pretty well about putting stuff on eBay, which I've been wanting to do, you know, and, I've made some, you know, pretty decent headway this week on that. Trying to think what else I've done. Yeah, I really haven't done a whole lot this week. It's been pretty, the stuff I have done has been just, you know, go to the grocery store, go to, you know, like just meh stuff, you know. I mean, you know, I went out to eat with, you know, my best friend, Tony, co-host on Salty Language tonight. And, you know, that was good. We haven't done that in a while, so it was nice to, you know, just kick back and, you know, have a couple of beers and, you know, some pizza and whatever. It does stink. The place we like to go the most, like every time we seem to go there lately, their kitchen's closed and we like their pizza, but, you know, that's always a bummer, but because we like the place. It's like, this is the place we'd like to hang out tonight. But we're also hungry, and there's no food except popcorn available right now. So, either we, you know... Although, I'm, you know, if we wanted to do something like get some food delivered, they probably would have been okay with it because their kitchen was not open. You know, I would never do that if the kitchen was open, of course, you know. But,
right.
I told this story on Salty Language, but I'm telling it on here too because I thought it was kind of fun. I went out to dinner last night, and when I ordered my food, I got chicken fingers, French fries, macaroni and cheese, and then it came with a dessert, so I got a chocolate chip cookie. And at one point, I looked down, and I'm like, am I 4 years old? Like,
I love that story.
Like, I'm eating basically chicken nuggets, French fries, and macaroni and cheese.
Love that story.
Yeah, you're a little kid.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It was, oh man. It was.
You just ordered it off the children's menu.
You know, it was actually funny carrying over because when Tony and I went out tonight and I'm looking at the menu, I go, oh, here we go. And and he looks as I'm pointing at chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese. You know, from the kids menu, of course, not from Yeah, not from the adult section, but
How have you been feeling with all the weather changes and stuff that's happening?
that is not been fun. Yeah, even today, like our humidity went back up today, and we had rain come through, and I mean, you can probably hear it in my energy level, if nothing else. My head right now is killing me, like just right in the front of my face. But you know, I don't miss shows, so. Yeah. Anyway, so that was. But yeah, that's not been fun, but. You know, I've been dealing with it for so long that it's almost a, what are you going to do, you know, kind of thing. So I need to get back to the neurologist probably at some point, but I don't know. I just kind of felt like I was going nowhere with that too. Like, I just feel like they can't, I kind of feel like the one doctor that I haven't gone to see about all this stuff is like an ear, nose, and throat specialist. And I really feel like that's the doctor I need to go see. Because I think a lot of my issues have to do with the fact that my one nasal passage is really small. And like my brother just had a procedure recently where they opened it up more, and he's been sleeping better. He's been breathing better. You know, he doesn't get headaches because he's lucky. And because my dad had them, my other brother gets migraines. Not like I do. Like, he doesn't get anywhere near, and he, you know, but I got all that. So probably because I have way more brain activity, you know. No. But anyway, you know, he had that done, and it's made a world of difference for him. So I think I'm going to need to make an appointment with my doctor and really kind of stress that, you know, hey, how about we try this, because this is something we haven't tried yet. You know, like, worst thing that happens, you know, I go in there and the guy's just like, yeah, there's nothing I can do. I'm like, okay, cool. Back, you know, right where I am right now. Best case scenario, he goes, oh yeah, we can fix this, you know?
Right.
Or we can try at least, or something. So I don't know. Cause it would be really nice cause I can tell when I sleep that I don't get, I'm not breathing well while I sleep, you know? And not, you know, it's like I'm laying on my side most of the time because I can't sleep on my back too easily. So I'm laying on my side, and I just, like, one side of my nose will work and the other side doesn't. You know, like, it stinks. It's like, and everyone can understand what I'm going through, because, like, when you have a cold, and you know how most of the time, a lot of times with a cold, only one side of your nose will work, you know, because the other's all stuffed up. That's me pretty close to every night. So yeah, it stinks.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, I think, part of it with me is I've just, you know, like, you run into a wall enough times and eventually you're like, I'm going to quit running into this wall. And I think in a lot of ways, what was that? Sorry?
See if you can get around.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I just feel like I've just been running into the wall, and it's time for a different approach, I believe. So yeah, that's going on. I was trying to think if there's anything else. But, no, it's been pretty, like I said, I've been pretty quiet here, which isn't bad. I took the last of my Wellbutrin today, of the lightest dose. So tomorrow is going to be my first day without it. So we'll see how this goes. My doctor, I have an extra prescription for it. So if I feel weird or have like withdrawal type stuff, my doctor told me, you know, I can go get more to go back on it. Like if I feel that I at least need to have like that small dose or whatever, you know. So I like that. Yeah, I was just going to say, I like that I got a little bit of a safety net with it. So hopefully that goes well, because I've just, you know, one less medicine, you know. Yeah. And, but yeah, that's It's really, I'm just sitting here stalling for time, but I can't think of anything else. I mean, I've been listening to a ton of podcasts lately. While I'm doing the eBay stuff, I've been just plowing through podcasts. That's, and I've been trying to focus on getting some more like video game time in. As a like relaxer at night and stuff, because just the amount of tension that I bring to myself is, I need a point of unwinding, which is why I've been, trying to focus on meditating again also. So, and that's been going pretty well. So, I mean, I keep missing days here and there, but which, bugs me because you're going to get the best benefit from doing it every day because you're practicing, you're strengthening that muscle. Yeah. And when you take a day or two off, it's like, well, you kind of got to step back just a little bit because, but whatever. I mean, it's not a race. It's, the intent is to just be better, than you were before. So, yeah.
Okay.
So I guess that's it.
Well, cool. I believe, Henno, you're going to kick us off?
Yeah. So I found a little topic that I found on Psychology Today, and it goes into what the question asked right off the bat is, what time zone do you live in? The past, present, or future? And it's a long article, so we're just going to put it in the show notes and you can look into it, and we're just going to touch on a couple topics of it. And one of the reasons that this jumped out at me is because we talk about it, and any sort of mindfulness, you're going to always hear about being in the present, that the best thing to do is be in the present. And that comes from the basically like kind of Buddhist philosophy that everything is nothing is permanent.
Yeah.
And that including our thoughts, feelings, and sensations. And that being in the present, it's interesting kind of, to me it's a paradox. It's like if I'm in my thoughts, feelings, and sensations in the moment, and those thoughts, feelings, and sensations are so overwhelming, am I really in the present? Am I really in control of my thinking, or am I being, swept away by emotion? And one of the parts of this article, it's talking about like, some people say, oh, well, I don't live in the past, but they live in these emotions that were kind of created by the past, whether it's anxiety or fear or something like that. They feel like they are in the present because they're dealing with their present feelings, but their present feelings are actually 100% controlled by past events.
Ooh, do you know what that is? That's
that?
Distorted thinking.
He got me.
Yeah. I know you didn't see that one coming. Yeah.
I didn't see that one coming.
Not at all, yeah.
God, it was such a big softball too.
Yeah, it was. Right at your head.
And and that is a form of living in the past. And the other side of that is living in the future, where everything is future casting. And, what if, and being so wrapped up in actually having so much fear and anxiety over the future that your emotions in the moment are so overwhelming. And so that these are the challenges of being locked in a zone that this article talks about. What
I was just going to say a big one, living in the future, is what we do every week come Monday. Can't wait till Friday. Can't wait till Friday. Can't wait till Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday go by. Can't wait for Friday. Finally, Friday gets here. We zoom through the weekend. Back to Monday. Can't wait for Friday again.
Mm. Yep. Well, it also works the opposite way, because like on Sunday, we start, tomorrow's Monday.
Yep.
You know, so yeah.
Monday by thinking about Monday.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're just living in the future instead of just enjoying the day. And yeah, you got to go back to work tomorrow, but okay, that's tomorrow, you know?
Yeah. And yet, you know, because of that constant reminder of this, you're kind of, we're hitting on this idea of like, oh, just be in the present, just be in, you know, be in the moment, live in the moment, you know, where are your feet right now? That, you know, live there. But what if you feel tremendous anxiety about the next workday?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't help. You know, if like you have some big project that's supposed to happen on Monday and that's bringing up anxiety, well, who wants to be in that moment? You know?
Right.
So the article talks about, this is the part that really jumped out at me, is when a future focus helps foster emotional well-being. So non-identification is a core concept of mindfulness. And it entails the capacity to observe and experience our thoughts, emotions, and sensations without being overwhelmed by them. Mindfulness is not about changing our experience. Rather, it helps us to not be overwhelmed by it. It is not about distraction from our feelings or emotional avoidance. Rather, it provides us a reminder that our feelings, thoughts, and sensations are transient. The capacity to envision ourselves in the future offers us an opportunity to strengthen this mindset. It furthers our capacity to be mindful to our feelings, thoughts, or sensations of the moment without being held hostage by them. This capacity is a core component of resilience when dealing with difficult and challenging emotions. When we primarily live in the present or the past, we fail to take advantage of our uniquely human capacity to project ourselves into the future. As such, while living primarily in the now can enrich our lives, there are times when living in the future can powerfully contribute to how we choose to live in the present. And I really dig that.
Yeah.
I really like that message. And because there's a difference between, you know, living in that future time zone and, you know, using your imagination and our dreams and our vision to shape our now. Well, what we're doing right now, because there was an exercise that I did when we used to do Angela's Awesome Podcast where she ran me through this. It was actually a tough exercise, and I actually have it in writing somewhere. I think I have it online, but we started with where we saw ourselves in a year and what life was like in a year. You know, I'll talk about where I saw myself in 3 years, what life was going to be like in 3 years, and where I saw myself in 10 years and what life was going to be like in 10 years. And it came down to things like, okay, 10 years, my parents aren't here. You know,
Yeah.
Jax isn't here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so that was the hard part of it. But it was about being very honest about what that future was, but then also using some, you know, where would you like to be? You know, where do you see yourself? And the exercise was good in that it allowed me to shape what I'm doing right now. What am I doing with my life right now? Am I doing something that leads to that vision of the future? Or am I doing something that's going to lead me away from it? And it was a really good exercise. And I think this is kind of the same idea. In taking a reasonable look at our future as well as our past can help make our present that much more effective. And in the article, it talks about being confronted with social anxiety. Excuse me. And the article says, we may recall a time when we were nervous about attending a particular social event but felt great pleasure at the end of the evening. Using this memory can serve as a foundation for imagining ourselves in the future. Creating such a vision first requires focused attention on being fully present with the thoughts, feelings, and sensations associated with that distinct moment of pleasure. This experience highlights how our recall activates an experience that we are present. We can then envision that present experience occurring in our future rather than focusing on the present fears and thoughts about attending that event. So by, thinking about that, what's going on tomorrow, that big work project, and instead of getting caught in that swirl of fear and anxiety or doubt, is to think back on a time where you also had that big project. Like quite often, like I know in my line of work, things repeat themselves. Every year we have some certain projects that have to get done. And I can think back on the past of, okay, the last time we did this, it worked out like this. And yes, it was difficult and it was a tough day, but it felt really good afterwards. And that if I can hold on to bring those thoughts into my moment right now, I'm giving myself a better chance at tomorrow. And that's what I'm getting from that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think another good example is exercising and preparing. So, we've all gone through the ups and downs when it comes to fitness. You go sometimes, you don't go other times, but taking care of yourself today and your motivation to go to the gym or to go work out today can be very much based upon your past and not wanting to feel or wanting to feel, depending upon which experiences you've had, that way again. And the other into the future, planning towards, whether it be a marathon or some sort of a walk or, some sort of goals that you've set for yourself, losing weight, whatever it may be. So all three parts kind of come together to work together to bring you to where you need to be. But they don't work as effectively on their own. They only work as well when you have all three components working together.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of getting from this too. And this idea of, ask yourself, what time zone do you feel like you reside in?
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say you feel like you already have this in your life. Another question that's worth asking that's mentioned in this article is, are you able to bring up positive experiences from the past and draw on them?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not, then maybe that might be something worth working on. If you have, that might be a good indicator.
Mm-hmm.
Besides those first three questions, then the next one is okay, well, let's say I tried to do this. Have I, in my experience, have I been able to bring up past experiences, the imagery and the emotion that goes with it? Because that's what seems to be very important here, is to be able to get, if you have positive experiences in your life, but you're not able to tune yourself to the positive memory, then, well, maybe that says something. It might be something worth working on.
Yeah.
I like there's one thing in the end. It says that living in the now offers our richest sense of being alive. However, being able to mindfully direct attention to our future self offers us expanded freedom to create our lives in ways that most resonate with who we wish to be. And I think that's a really strong message, and it's something that for me was kind of confusing when I first got sober. There were a lot of concepts like, okay, don't think too much. Okay, but think about what you're doing. Okay, well, wait a minute. You told me not to think too much. That being in my head's a dangerous neighborhood.
Yeah.
But, but think. And it's like, okay, well, you're confusing me here. And it's like, okay, wait, I shouldn't be future casting, but I need to be looking towards the future so I know,
Yeah.
And that's where, if you want a great definition of wisdom falls in there somewhere. Wisdom is knowing the difference between, because I see this a lot with newcomers to sobriety, where their life is suddenly getting better, and they're instantly, everything's in the future, everything. Oh, now I'm going to get the right girlfriend, or I'm, my job, or the this or the that. And everything is so focused on this future that the work on self ends right there.
Yeah.
Again, it's all about something else coming into my life to change me, to make my life better, rather than looking at what can I do today to make that possibility occur. You know, there's a difference there. And I remember feeling that way, that somehow if these things happen, these things are going to happen. It's going to change everything for me.
Mhm.
My life is going to be different, but it doesn't address my changing myself, so that when that thing does happen, I can actually be effective at it.
Yeah.
And, you know, to me, it's that stay out of the outcomes.
Yep.
Work on yourself. Get yourself in the best order you can. That doesn't mean you don't have a vision,
Right.
you know, of that future. It doesn't mean that you don't have goals. We should have that. Like, I think the working out is a great, just practical example of that. We have to have a vision.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't necessarily need to be a number, whether it's on a scale or the inches around your bicep. I think that can where you can get into that, you know, you're back into controlling the outcomes, because, you know, like, I need to make this particular thing happen. Whereas a vision is more gentle. It's probably more of a feminine approach, you know, where you're not looking at like the number on the waistband, but maybe it's just a pair of pants you used to once wear
Yeah.
that brought you joy.
Right.
Looking into the past, right, in a reasonable way. This made me happy. I'll see maybe if I can get into, you know, wear this dress again, or, you know, wear this pair of shorts, and then start working on the now and bringing up those, using those positive feelings to get you towards that goal. And I think that's a great practical example of it.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, my therapist used to tell me, that, you know, like when I talk about, you know, living in the past or whatever, and she'd basically tell me, you know, that it's fine to visit the past, but we don't, you know, don't live there, basically, you know, and it makes sense because, like you said, there's nothing wrong with a little reflection. There's nothing wrong with, like you said, remembering, like, you know, sometimes you're like, okay, well, if you're goal setting and you go, well, when was the last time I was happy or content or however you want to word that, you know, and then it's like, well, you have to look backward to find that potentially. If it's not now, you have to look backward. So, you know, these things are all okay. It's just, you can't, like you said, even the, dealing with the outcomes, that works going back too, because, you know, if you're talking about things the way they turned out, you can't.
The woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah, you can't do anything about those. You can learn from them. That's all you can do, you know, or change your strategy going forward. But you can't make a yes into a no, or this, you know, that kind of thing. So, I thought that was interesting when you said that, because that was the first thing I thought of, is like, that's like, because that works forwards or backwards, you know, trying to stay out of it, outcomes.
The other one that comes to mind is dating. And so often when you're dating, you're either living in the past and not moving forward, or you're living in the future of what you want it to be, and what you want yourself to be, what you want them to be, what, you know, where you want the relationship to go. All of this stuff is in the future. And instead of living in today, which is learn from the past experiences, work on yourself today so that you can be that person you want to be in the future. So whether you have someone in your life right now or don't, and a lot of times people run into the same issues when they don't have someone in their lives and they want someone in their lives, taking those actions today. What interests you? What do you find? What would you like to see in your mate, in the person that you're looking for? What can you do today to put yourself in a position to be ready to see those aspects, or maybe even have some of those aspects yourself? You know, maybe it's reading some books. Maybe it's, you know, getting your knowledge base larger. Maybe it's joining a club that has some interests that you've always wanted to do. And by expanding your own environment and expanding your own knowledge set, you can be opening yourself up to be that person that person you're looking for is attracted to and wants to be with, and thus self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really fascinating. Yeah, I mean, the whole prospect of yesterday, today, and tomorrow type of a thing. You know, learning from your past, living in the moment, and keeping in mind and looking towards the future.
Yeah, because that's the one thing is, yeah, getting back to it one more time, is just that saying, you know, just be in the moment, live in the now. It's just not that simple.
No, if it was,
and we
there
talk
wouldn't
about
be
that a
tons
lot.
of books on how to do it. You know,
Exactly. Yeah, we talk about that all the time. It's like, okay, that's great that you said that, but how? How do I do that?
Yeah.
How do I live that? Okay, and now let's say I've achieved being in the moment. Well, what if my moment is so turbulent with emotion?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now what do I do?
Right. How do I live
And
here?
I think,
yeah.
yeah, and I think this is a really great way of looking at it. Is that you know, our past and our future are both tools.
Mm-hmm.
And that the there's nothing wrong with looking into the future, and that it can actually help us in having better well-being, which I like that I still love that phrase. Once we started talking about that this year, it's like well-being. It's like, I don't necessarily need to be happy. You know, I just need to feel well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of those turbulent emotions and anxieties and those kind of things, that's the opposite of well-being. You know, and what are it, and these are anything that's a concrete tool to try, to me, helps me so much more, because you can hear these things all the time. Oh, just live in the moment. What does that mean? You know, how?
You know, and something else that there is to that is there's a lot of those kind of statements and stuff that, you know, especially years ago, like I would read them, and so many times they'll be like you said, how? What does that mean? What am I supposed to do? Like that doesn't tell me what it is. It's like giving me the punchline to a joke. You know, it's like I need the context. Like what else goes with this? Like I feel like I'm missing a piece here. You know? And I think sometimes some of these sayings and stuff, there's some people that they just don't register with. And I don't mean like they're not smart enough to get it or any of that kind of stuff. It's just you hear it and you're just like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like it's just, you know. And that was always one for me when people would say that, you know, oh, you just got to live in the moment. And it's like, until you have something you can directly kind of pinpoint as in, oh yeah, right then I was living in the moment. Like I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, until you have that visual, something that whatever that you can visualize, it's really hard to, and many times you don't realize it, and it's hard to see even going backward. You know, like if you're really looking at your life, it's hard to remember, oh yeah, I was in the moment, you know, whereas once you kind of are like, oh, I'm looking for it, you know, I've beat this horse to death, but I'm going to keep bringing it up, was, you know, us in Chicago, when I turned to you and was like this, like I'm living in the moment, like right now, I'm here. This is exactly where I'm at, you know, and that was such a powerful moment to me. You know, because I couldn't really think of a lot of examples going backward because I wasn't paying attention to whether or not I was living in the now, or I thought I was living in the now, but like you said, I was actually living in I was living in the now that was based on feelings I wouldn't let go of, essentially. You know?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, so it was distorted thinking. So once I realized kind of how my brain was distorting my thinking, it was like, okay, well, I need a clear example of this. Like one that I'm sure is, you know, like this. And again, that was the moment. Like when that happened and I was like, yes, this. And it was such a weird feeling at that very moment to just be like, and I noticed it again and again at a few concerts I've been to or shows or whatever. It's like, this is where I can finally, my brain just completely tunes right into where I am and what I'm doing. It isn't worried about what's going to happen after the show. It's not worried about, anything else. It's just right there enjoying everything. So, when you mentioned that about the whole, like, if you don't have something you can visualize, like, it may be time to, change your strategy a little bit.
Yeah.
And my therapist kind of mentioned that to me once before about how, if you don't have something and that becomes your goal, like, hey, I want to live in the moment. It's like, okay, well, here's things you can do to essentially, start trying it so that eventually you'll find an example along the way. Like me, all I needed was just, I needed that door in my brain opened to start looking for it. Once I started looking for it, I've noticed moments off and on ever since. And some of them are boom and they're gone. Some weren't. Like the whole time we were in that museum that day, I was totally right there. There was nowhere else I cared about right then. It was right there. And in this, like I said, music, I've noticed, and I've had some other things where I'm just right in that spot. And it's like, this is awesome. And once you start seeing those, then you can start gaining contentment, happiness, however you want to look at that moment. You can start going, you know what? That was a moment. That was a happy time. Even though it might be 5 minutes. It's like, that was happy. And as I've said a few weeks ago, it's like, really, it's like, I'm seeking contentment because I understand that happiness is fleeting, whereas contentment is contentment is more sustainable than happiness to me. May not be for everybody, but I'm saying for me, don't get me wrong. I want to be happy, but I'm also realizing that in my head, happy is the perfect end of that scale, So it's kind of like in school. It's like, sure, you want to get A's, but I'm also, if I end up with a B, I'm okay with that. So it's like, as long as I'm moving toward happy, like that's the goal. Keep moving that way. Stay as far away from the other one as I can.
and that's, where you talk about that, you achieve the one thing that is so difficult for people that are in any sort of a behavioral cycle, whether it be addiction or mental health. It could be someone that has some sort of a destructive behavior. When they don't give themselves a chance to get through that dark tunnel and see the light on the other side.
Yeah.
That every time something heavy happens, they pick up a drink or they cut themselves or they overeat or whatever it is that they do.
Sure.
Is that until you've had that moment of like, whoa, I got through this. And that was my experience. I had to get through something that I was sure I would drink over.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I had to get to the other side of it and go, whoa, I got through it and I didn't take a drink.
Right.
Okay. If I got through that, I can get through, the next thing that comes up.
Right. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a real key thing is like, if you don't have that part of you, it's like no one can gift you that.
Yeah.
That's your gift to yourself.
It is. Like I said, the only thing in that process that I feel I was given was I felt like being in therapy allowed that door in my brain to be open to where I could see it, because that door had been shut, by, the negative thinking or distorted thinking, however you want to word that, to where it's like, don't worry about what's out there. Like I got you. I'll take care of you, and meanwhile, the therapist is like, no, you should take a look on the other side of that door. There's good stuff over there. Well, okay. Like, oh, hey, this is a lot brighter. So, yeah, you're right though. It is when you get through that dark spot and you see that you can make it, it's a huge thing. I mean, honestly, every time I go into a depression spiral, it's that way. Like, even though I know realistically, I know, you know, that I'll make it. You know, eventually I'll be okay. But at the same time, it's so hard to see that when you're in that moment. You know, so, and once you're through it, it does help, because next time you go through it, you can be, hey, you know what? You went through this before. You know, this too shall pass. You know, like.
Absolutely.
Or, you know.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull a Crow quote, you know, it can't rain all the time, you know.
One of my favorites is you're unhappy, this too shall pass. You're happy, this too shall pass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It goes both ways. And you know what?
It does.
I admire that. I admire that more. There's something that I always that drives me nuts when I'm in any sort of a group meeting and someone starts thanking their higher power or whatever it is for all the wonderful things that happened to them, but they never thank their higher power for the crummy things that happened to them.
Right.
Even though that the lessons learned from the crummy things are probably a greater gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, though, I hear someone come in and talk about something, a moment or something that happened that they didn't like in the least bit, hated it, last thing they wanted, but still called it a gift.
Yeah.
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 And
That's
I just,
framing.
those are the greatest moments. And that's when I go, that person has a grip on what it means to be a human.
Yeah. I've heard people that talk about praying and do that, you know, that'll make the comment about how, you know, like, you always get an answer. It may not be the one you want or you're looking for, but you always get an answer, kind of a thing.
An answer.
And I always kind of thought that's, you know, it's kind of funny because, you know, the cynic in me wants to go, wow, that's kind of twisted. That's kind of jerky, but it's true. No matter what, every scenario, whether you blame it on, or not blame it, but whether you, give credit to the universe or a god or, I don't know, flying spaghetti monster, whatever it is.
Yep.
You know, or if you just think things just happen or whatever, you know, something's going to happen, you know, no matter what. The scenario will go, something will happen there. And like you said, so many times in our lives, what we felt at that moment was the worst thing that could have happened to us turns out to be the best thing that happened to us, you know? I was listening to Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, and when he had Stephen Colbert on, and Colbert wanted to write for Conan's show. And he wanted to write for him really badly, and he didn't make it. And at the time, you know, he was, you know, this sucks and all this kind of stuff. But because of that, he ended up doing other things, which led to him ending up on The Daily Show, which ended up with The Colbert Report, which ended up with the job he has now, where basically he has the job he wanted, kind of, you know, it just took a different path to get there. And Conan said the same thing about himself. He wanted to write for Letterman, you know, and it didn't happen. And when it didn't happen, he really focused on what he was doing, but he ended up on The Simpsons and Saturday Night Live and all these other things and eventually got where he is, you know. And again, he's like, these may be the best things that ever happened to us is we didn't get what we wanted, you know. And like you said, it's like now guys like that will go, you know, thank God or thank whatever higher power, thank, you know, whatever. They will give credit, but you're right. So many times people just don't, you know, they won't give any credit to anything except for when it's good or perceived as good, you know, as I should say, when they get what they want, you know. Yeah.
There's a great song called Unanswered Prayers by Garth Brooks. And I think I mentioned it before in the show.
Yeah.
And I always love that song because that's what it is basically him thanking, you know, thanking God for not letting him be with this woman that he fell in love with in high school and being with her forever. He's thanking God that he didn't listen, that it was an unanswered prayer.
Yep.
and is very happy.
Yep.
Thanks for ignoring me, man.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
You really had my back on that one. Yeah.
That's so great.
Pretty much. So it's really a great song. I love that one.
Yep.
So I don't know, guys. What do you guys think?
Good chat.
We good?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, folks, it's that time. You would like to carry on the conversation with us. We would love to hear from you. You can reach me you can reach the show. Let's start with there. You can reach the show. The Crazy Life podcast.weebly.com is our website. The Crazy Life podcast at outlook.com is our email address. If you want to reach me direct, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. You can follow me, direct message me, and we can have a chat. I'd love to hear from you. If you want to hear more from me, you can also hear me on Shake the Sheets. You can find that on shakethesheets.com. It's a pop culture talk podcast. And Henno, how can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Henno or search for L Henno. And you can find me on Facebook, Henno Heiter, and also on Facebook Messenger. And if you can find me there, then I'll let you know if you can find me on Kick. And on our Moving the Needle podcast this week, we are going to be doing our first for our resurrected podcast. We used to do something called Pet Films, where we talk about, it's like a guilty pleasure film. And this week is Don't Mess with the Zohan.
Man, I can't wait to listen to you guys dig into that one.
I watched this movie last night, and
it's so bad.
It's so bad.
You'll hear me.
Yeah.
Well, this will come out on next Sunday. Yeah, before I go on vacation. Well, yeah. Believe it or not, our Sean was the one that picked this one. And I'm
without this becoming like us just completely talking about that show. I'm shocked it was him that brought this to the table.
Exactly.
Of any of you, if you said one of us brought this, he would have been the last one I would have guessed.
Person. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I cannot wait to hear his comments on this.
That's same here.
I cannot wait.
Yeah. And yeah, it's going to be fun.
Nice. And you, Brian, how can they find you?
You can also find this show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod, where I post when new episodes go up. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can find my other podcast at salty_language on Twitter or at saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work, so please be careful who's around when you're listening. We just talk about pop culture, what's going on in our life, just kind of whatever jumps in front of us,
Conversational podcast.
Yeah. It's a very stream of consciousness at times. You can find the show or our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast. We are part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. And we're also part of the Danger Entertainment Network, which can be found at dangerentertainment.net. So please go check out those networks, and you'll probably find some other shows that you enjoy. And if you do, tell them... Nah, I don't know. Tell them we sent you. I got nothing. My brain's not braining well anymore. Not that it was firing on all cylinders to begin with, but... Oh, I feel like I'm forgetting a link here somewhere. We would appreciate it if you'd rate, review, and subscribe if you haven't already. And in case you don't know, you can find us on Spotify. Just search The Crazy Life on there. And, I'm looking at the links, and I don't know why I feel like there's some I'm forgetting, but anywho, if you need help, please reach out. And again, this doesn't even have to be about mental health. We talk a lot about stuff that's mental health related on here, but we also talk about just overall wellness. And it's like, if you find yourself in a spot where you just need someone to talk to, or not the crisis line. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. But there's forums you can talk with people. There's groups out there you can go to. There's therapy. There's, I'm sure, other forms of things if you just, type into your, the magic computer we all carry around, and tell it that you just need someone to talk to. I'm sure there's all sorts of things and people out there willing to help you out. So please don't feel like you have to shoulder anything by yourself. I know we all, just about everybody's had those feelings at some point for whatever reason. But, please don't feel like that you have to. And again, you're not alone. Tons of us. I mean, I know better. I've been in therapy, all this stuff, but there are still things that I shoulder, like that I won't go talk to somebody about, or I don't bring up with other people. And why? I don't know. I can't give you a logical answer to that. But, I'm trying. And that's all we ask. And also, please reach out to somebody or, to people and love and care about and everything to, just make sure they're doing okay, especially if they've been going through a rough patch. I did on Facebook last night because, I saw our friend Corey posted. He just randomly posted a "I love you all" comment, and those are the comments that to me, boom, red flag. Even though saying "I love you all" it's a nice statement. We all, but it's also the kind of thing that people say sometimes when they're in a bad way. So, I immediately was like, you okay? And he said that, yeah, he said he'd rather, do something like that than do something harmful or whatever. Awesome. I'd much rather you do that too. Right. So, but I wanted to make sure he was okay. And, so that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's just, if you see something like that, just make sure the person's okay. Let them know that if they need something, you're there for them, to talk to them or whatever. And, as I generally say here too, let's all try to be, nicer to one another and just choose kindness when you can.
Absolutely.
Wait, hold on. I forgot one part of it. And that includes to yourself.
Very important part.
Be kind to yourself. Mm-hmm. And remember, self-care is doing something.
Absolutely.
I've noticed lately I've been saying that to a lot of people because they're like, oh, I feel bad because I didn't do anything today. I'm like, what'd you do? Well, I laid around and blah, blah, but I feel better. And, it's like, that's self-care. Self-care is doing something. So allow yourself off the hook for that. There's a good example of how to be kinder to yourself.
Absolutely. With that, folks, go out there, have the best week you possibly can. Make sure you make those choices. And we will see you here next week.